जय भीम. भारतरत्न डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकरांच्या 129व्या जयंतीनिमित्त आपण सर्वांना शुभेच्छा. जेव्हा आपण एखाद्या महापुरुषाची जयंती साजरी करतो त्यावेळी त्या व्यक्तीच्या कार्याचे आपण गुणगान करतो आणि ते केलेही पाहिजे. त्याचबरोबर त्या महापुरुषाचे जे विचार आहेत त्याची आपण प्रत्यक्षात किती अंमलबजावणी केली याचाही आढावा घेतला पाहिजे आणि हे अतिशय महत्त्वाचे आहे. पण ते आपण करत नाही हे वास्तव आहे. असो, मला बोलण्यासाठी विषय दिलेला आहे डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकरांचे राष्ट्राच्या उभारणीतील योगदान. खरे तर या विषयावर मी एक पुस्तक लिहिलेले आहे. त्या पुस्तकाचं टायटल आहे डॉक्टर B.R. आंबेडकर, मेकर ऑफ मॉडर्न इंडिया. मी डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकरांवर एकूण 4 पुस्तके लिहिलेली आहेत. त्यापैकी 3 पुस्तके मुंबईच्या भाष्य प्रकाशनाने प्रसिद्ध केली आहेत आणि भाष्य प्रकाशनाचे प्रकाशक आहेत महेश भारती. या सर्व 4 पुस्तकात डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकरांच्या योगदानाची चर्चा केलेली आहे. ही चर्चा आता मी इंग्रजीतून करणार आहे. नाउ लेट मी डिस्कस डॉक्टर आंबेडकर्स contribution in various fields. To start with, I will take up the field human rights, मानवी हक्क. Before I discuss Dr. Ambedkar's contribution in human rights, let me give you some background. There are many international instruments, that is agreements, of human rights, starting with Magna Carta, which was enacted in 1215. Then comes United Nations Charter, which was enacted in 1945. After the Second World War, the world leaders gather at United Nations and enacted this charter. Then we have an important another international human rights instrument, and that is United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, which was enacted in 1948. Now this Universal Declaration of Human Rights is so important that all countries in the United Nations have adopted this instrument. Besides, there are 2 other international instruments, that is International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and the other is International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. These 2 international instruments were enacted in 1966. Now these are the all international instruments. Now coming to national scene, we have Indian Constitution, which was enacted in 1950 and drafted by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And the other instrument is Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. We all know that Dr. Ambedkar was chief architect of Indian Constitution, and Dr. Ambedkar fought for inclusion of fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution. Against the advice of the United States Supreme Court Judge Felix Frankfurter. Now, let me explain this. When B.N. Rao was advisor of Constituent Assembly of India, he was consulting various constitutional experts across the world. When he went to United States, he met United States Supreme Court Judge Felix Frankfurter. Felix Frankfurter advised B.N. Rao that do not incorporate fundamental rights in Indian Constitution because that will create problem in social legislation. If you compare Indian Constitution with United States Constitution, we notice that fundamental rights were incorporated in Indian Constitution right in the beginning in 1950 when it was drafted by the Constituent Assembly. But that was not the case with United States Constitution. Human rights were not incorporated in the original human rights, original Constitution of America. Human rights were incorporated later on in 1791 in the United States Constitution. That is, the American Constitution was drafted in 1787 and human rights were incorporated in United States Constitution in 1791. That is 4 years after the Constitution was drafted. Now, in this sense, Indian Constitution is superior to American Constitution. We have all heard about Arun Shourie. He wrote a book, Worshipping False Gods, in which he wrote that Dr. Ambedkar is not chief architect of Indian Constitution, but all the experts, constitutional experts throughout the world, as well as the members of Constituent Assembly, they agreed that Dr. Ambedkar indeed was the chief architect of Indian Constitution. We know that Dr. Ambedkar's greatest contribution as a maker of modern India is his drafting of Indian Constitution. Therefore, Dr. Ambedkar's entry into Constitution Assembly has great significance. Congress was dead against Dr. Ambedkar's entry into Constituent Assembly. Sardar Patel famously said, and I quote, "Not only all the doors of Constituent Assembly, but the windows also are closed for Dr. Ambedkar's entry into Constituent Assembly." Yet, Dr. Ambedkar entered Constituent Assembly through Bengal constituency with the help of Jogendranath Mandal. Now let me again explain why Dr. Ambedkar's entry into Constituent Assembly was important. Because he entered Constituent Assembly, he could incorporate fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution as a chairman of drafting committee. Number two, he made provision for reservation of SC and ST in the Constitution. And most importantly, he drafted Article 17 in the Indian Constitution, which abolishes untouchability. Dr. Ambedkar's contribution in human rights is evident also in Mahad Satyagraha and Kalaram Mandir Satyagraha. Why did Dr. Ambedkar launch Mahad Satyagraha? He launched Mahad Satyagraha to emphasize that untouchables are also human rights like other people. During Mahad Satyagraha, Manusmriti, which is symbol of inequality, was burnt. Coming to Kalaram Mandir Satyagraha, Kalaram Mandir Satyagraha was the longest satyagraha in human history, lasting for more than 5 years. This satyagraha was also launched to emphasize that untouchables are human rights and they have human dignity. From this discussion, it is clear that Dr. Ambedkar was champion of human rights and valiant upholder of human rights. Now this term valiant upholder of human rights reminds me the fact that Columbia University awarded honorary doctorate LLD to Dr. Ambedkar in 1952. Now the citation of this LLD degree reads, and I quote, Dr. Ambedkar was awarded LLD for his service as a great social reformer and valiant upholder of human rights. Now let me explain Dr. Ambedkar's contributions in roundtable conferences. British government held 3 roundtable conferences in London during 1930 to 1933 to draft Government of India Act 1935. Government of India Act 1935 is nothing but the Constitution of India before independence. Sir Tej Bahadur Sapru and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar were the only 2 leaders who participated in all the 3 roundtable conferences and contributed significantly. In the first roundtable conference, Dr. Ambedkar demanded independence of India. Speaking at the plenary session of first roundtable conference on 20th November 1930, he criticized British government that British government has not done anything for the untouchables. They have not abolished untouchability. They have not done anything to allow the entry of untouchables into the temples. They have not done anything to allow the entry of untouchables into the police and Indian Army. Therefore, he concluded that it is time for India to have its own government. In other words, Dr. Ambedkar was demanding political independence. This was a stunning political statement which justified the need for India's independence. Coming to second round table conference. Now, Gandhi attended only one round table conference, that is the second round table conference. And this second round table conference is famous for the fight between Dr. Ambedkar and Gandhi on the issue of Dr. Ambedkar demanded separate electorate for untouchables, and Mahatma Gandhi opposed it tooth and nail. Dr. Ambedkar also prepared the Declaration of Fundamental Rights, safeguarding cultural, religious and social rights of depressed classes, and submitted it to the minority subcommittee for inclusion in the future constitution of India. Dr. Ambedkar also demanded adult suffrage and recruitment of depressed classes in Indian Army. And what was Mahatma Gandhi's contribution in second round table conference? Practically nil. Mahatma Gandhi was supposed to find solution to minority problems in the second round table conference, but he did nothing about that. On the contrary, he played dirty politics. Now let me give one example of that dirty politics. During the conference, one day Mahatma Gandhi went secretly to Aga Khan, and he was holding in one hand the Holy Quran, and he told Aga Khan that he is ready to sanction all the demands of Muslim League provided they oppose Dr. Ambedkar's policies. Coming to Dr. Ambedkar's contribution in democracy. Now, the first contribution was Dr. Ambedkar drafted Indian Constitution, the preamble of which reads, and I quote, "We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic." That means India would be a democratic country. Number two, his definition of democracy was unique. As an example, I will define one of his definitions of democracy by Dr. Ambedkar. Democracy is a form of government whereby revolutionary changes in economic and social life of the people are brought about without bloodshed. This is very, very unique definition. You will not find anybody defining democracy in such a novel way. Number three, Dr. Ambedkar's politics was very enlightened politics. Now, let me explain. Now, if I ask you a question, what is the aim of a political party? You will answer, to win the elections and grab the political power. But Ambedkar said that aim of political party is not to win the election, but to educate and organize people for their rights. This is very enlightened way of looking at politics. Number 4, Dr. Ambedkar was the only politician who did maximum efforts to popularize democracy by giving lectures at various platforms throughout India. Considering all these contributions of Dr. Ambedkar, we can say that Dr. Ambedkar was a great democrat, like Thomas Jefferson, the third president of America. Coming to Dr. Ambedkar's contribution in economics. Dr. Ambedkar was a renowned economist with 2 doctorates from foreign universities. One from Columbia University in New York, and second was from London School of Economics, London. Number 2, Dr. Ambedkar challenged the world famous British economics John Maynard Keynes on the issue of gold exchange standard. Number 3, Reserve Bank of India was established on the ideas that Dr. Ambedkar presented in his book Problem of Rupee. Number 4, Dr. Ambedkar established Finance Commission of India in 1951. Thus, by establishing Reserve Bank of India and Finance Commission of India, Dr. Ambedkar laid a strong economic foundation of India. Coming to his contribution in politics. Dr. Ambedkar founded 2 political parties, the Independent Labour Party in 1936 and Scheduled Caste Federation in 1942. You will be surprised to know that the objective of Independent Labour Party was, now here I will ask you, what is the objective of any political party? You will say to win the election. But Dr. Ambedkar said that the objective of Independent Labour Party was to educate men in democratic methods. And similarly, the manifesto of Scheduled Caste Federation was also very unique. It says all Indians have the right to equality and equal opportunity. Now remember, Dr. Ambedkar was talking about democratic methods, right to equality, equal opportunity, which come in Constitution. And Constitution was drafted in 1950. And Dr. Ambedkar was talking about democratic methods, right to equality, etc. in 1930s and 1940s. This clearly indicates that Dr. Ambedkar was far ahead of his time. Dr. Ambedkar also wanted to form a Republican Party of India. India, right from the beginning, did not have the basic criteria of democracy. Democracy needs two things. One is ruling party and other is the strong opposition. India had ruling party, Congress, but no strong opposition. Therefore, Dr. Ambedkar wanted to form a strong political party to take on the wrong policies of Congress party. And therefore, he was negotiating with the Socialist Party members to form a strong opposition party to be named as Republican Party of India. Unfortunately, that could not happen because of sad demise of Dr. Ambedkar on 6 December 1956. Now let me take a little diversion here. I want to make an observation about our politics. If people like N.S. Kajrolkar had joined Dr. Ambedkar's party instead of joining Congress party, the things today would have been different. We would have been ruling party in India. By the way, who was this Kajrolkar? He was an untouchable person who joined Congress party, and on a Congress ticket he fought the election against Dr. Ambedkar in first general election and defeated Dr. Ambedkar. Now, this electoral fight between Dr. Ambedkar and Kajrolkar has been very poignantly described by P.K. Atre in his paper. He wrote in Marathi, and I quote, कुठे तो घटनाकार आंबेडकर आणि कुठे हा लोणी विक्या काजरोळकर. Now let me pass on to the next point, that is Dr. Ambedkar's contribution as a labor member. As a labor member of Viceroy's Executive Council, he contributed in two areas. One is labor legislation and the other is water resources development. In labor legislation, he drafted many laws to give benefit to workers and women. And in water resources development, he created a new water policy. Now he created new water policy by establishing two commissions. One, the Central Water Commission, and the other, Central Technical Power Board. Because of these two commissions, it was possible to construct multi-purpose Bhakra Nangal Dam and other dams for power generation, flood control, agriculture irrigation and navigation. Dr. Ambedkar resigned as a labor member of Viceroy's Executive Council as his demand for inclusion of two Scheduled Caste Federation members in the interior government was not met. Instead, Jagjeevan Ram was included in the interim government. Coming to Dr. Ambedkar's contribution in Hindu Code Bill. Dr. Ambedkar drafted Hindu Code Bill to transform India into an egalitarian society, empowering women with equal rights in marriage, divorce, maintenance, property, inheritance, succession, and adoption. This Hindu Code Bill was a very revolutionary social legislation. Yet, this bill was opposed tooth and nail by Orthodox Hindus, but also by educated and influential women like Sarojini Naidu. Even Dr. Rajendra Prasad opposed it. Ultimately, Nehru dropped this bill. Since Hindu Code Bill was not passed by Parliament, Dr. Ambedkar resigned as Law Minister of India. Coming to the next point, that is industrialization. Dr. Ambedkar thought that industrialization is inevitable for making India a modern nation. In contrast, Gandhi was against industrialization. Gandhi considered industrialization as a curse to mankind, and he has mentioned this in Hind Swaraj. Dr. Ambedkar was founder of organizations. Dr. Ambedkar returned to India from England after completing his education on 14th April 1923, his 32nd birthday. On 20th July 1924, Vaishit Hitkarni Sabha was formed, and through Vaishit Hitkarni Sabha, he founded many organizations, social, educational, and political and religious. Coming to educational organizations, Dr. Ambedkar founded People's Education Society in July 1945, and through People's Education Society, he founded Siddharth College in Bombay in 1946, Milind College in Aurangabad in 1950, and many other colleges. And through these colleges, he provided education to millions of the students from the underprivileged classes. Along with education, he gave importance to humility and character, and therefore he once said, "An educated man without character and humility is more dangerous than a beast." Coming to his labor movements, Dr. Ambedkar established Bombay Municipal Kamgar Sangh in 1934. This Sangh conducted two important strikes in the history of Bombay. Number one, the strike against Industrial Disputes Bill 1938. This strike was important because it was this strike that gave Dr. Ambedkar recognition as a labor leader. Number two, the Bombay Municipal Strike of 1949. This was the biggest strike in labor industry of Bombay, involving 9,000 municipal employees. Bombay Municipal Commissioner argued in the court that since the striking workers are from sanitary department, they form essential services, so they cannot go on strike. The High Court said they can. This strike created, therefore, a grand awakening in trade unionism. Now let us come to Dr. Ambedkar's geographical thoughts. He never studied geography. Dr. Ambedkar never studied geography as a subject in college or university. Yet he studied geography of India through several perspectives to solve the problems of India. Now let us consider Dr. Ambedkar's thought on population geography. Population explosion is India's major problem. Dr. Ambedkar thought that India's population can be controlled by family planning. In 1938, he presented a bill on birth control in Bombay Legislative Assembly through R.J. Roham. Recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi mentioned in Independence speech in 2019 about population control in his Independence speech. But 80 years before, Dr. Ambedkar presented the bill when India's population was only 300 million. Now our population is 1.3 billion. This indicates that Dr. Ambedkar was much ahead of time. Now, coming to annihilation of caste, that is जात्यांत्याचा लढा. Annihilation of caste was Dr. Ambedkar's life mission. It was an article of faith for Dr. Ambedkar. He toiled his entire life and made Herculean efforts for annihilation of caste, but could not succeed. However, he succeeded in abolition of untouchability by drafting Article 17 in the Indian Constitution. Annihilation of caste is important because no social revolution is possible without annihilation of caste, and Dr. Ambedkar wanted a social revolution. Now, let me come to Dr. Ambedkar's contribution in conversion of Buddhism. Dr. Ambedkar founded Buddhist Society, and on 12th May 1956 he gave a talk on BBC, Why I Like Buddhism. He embraced Buddhism on 14th October 1956 at Diksha Bhumi in Nagpur. It was unprecedented conversion in human history. 500,000 people embraced Buddhism. On 20th November 1956, he attended World Fellowship of Buddhist Conference in Kathmandu, and he gave the historic talk there on Buddha and Karl Marx. On 25th November 1956, he addressed a gathering at Sarnath, highlighting the significance of casteless society in Buddhism. Dr. Ambedkar had a dream to spread Buddhism throughout India. He wrote Buddha and his Dhamma, a classic book on Buddhism, indeed his magnum opus. Frequently, there is a debate as to what was Dr. Ambedkar's greatest contribution. According to Arundhati Rai, annihilation of caste is his greatest contribution. And the Ananya Vajpayee, the writer of Writers' Republic, she says Dr. Ambedkar's conversion to Buddhism was his greatest contribution. But many intellectuals and the common people think that Dr. Ambedkar's greatest contribution was Indian Constitution. Now, let me close with the observation that Dr. Ambedkar was not only the greatest human being, but he was greatest leader among the Indian leaders. I think this is in my concluding remarks, that Dr. Ambedkar was not only the greatest leader of untouchables, but he was greatest leader of Indian Republic. Thank you. Now, some people have asked some questions, but I am not sure what are those questions, but I will try to guess and answer. One of the question was about his friendship with Naval Batena. When Dr. Ambedkar was studying in Columbia University, he was staying with Naval Batena, who was an Indian, and Naval Batena became very friendly with Dr. Ambedkar. He helped Dr. Ambedkar every time when Dr. Ambedkar was in financial trouble. All throughout his life, Dr. Ambedkar used to get some financial assistance from the Batena, Naval Batena. uh, the what what is the other question? Now let me imagine what was the other question. One of my books is on Thomas Jefferson and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Now, the book compares Dr. Ambedkar and Thomas Jefferson, and the comparison is on various aspects. For example, their hobbies, they had common hobbies such as love for books, and both had excellent library. Their personal libraries were excellent. Then there can be comparison about their another hobby, that is fascination for architecture. You know, Dr. Ambedkar built a Rajgraha with so many novel things architecturally. The same was true for Thomas Jefferson. When Thomas Jefferson constructed his own house, Montoliso, he took 40 years for the completion. Every time he was designing, building, but again demolishing, redesigning, and again building. This went on for 40 years. So I don't think that even after 40 years he was satisfied with the design of his house. So much he was fascinated with the architecture of his home. Then Dr. Ambedkar criticized British government. Similarly, Thomas Jefferson also criticized British government. You will be knowing that American colonies were under British rule before American independence. Then about agricultural views, they were on par because both were sympathetic towards the landless laborers and not the land owners. Coming to religion, Thomas Jefferson wrote a book, and that was initially Gospel of Jesus. Dr. Ambedkar's book on Buddhism was earlier Gospel of Buddhism. Later on it became Buddha and his Dhamma. As far as their views on education were concerned, they were of the view that the primary education should be free and compulsory. Both were founders of educational institutions. Thomas Jefferson founded Virginia University. Dr. Ambedkar founded Siddharth College, Milind College, and many other colleges. Coming to politics, both had very enlightened views on politics, and both were lucky that they had very trusted political ally. In case of Dr. Ambedkar, the trusted political ally was Dada Saheb Gaikwad, that is B.K. Gaikwad, and in case of the Thomas Jefferson, his trusted ally, political ally, was James Madison. James Madison was the President of America after Thomas Jefferson. Then, coming to their views on democracy, both were extraordinary Democrats, very novel views about democracy, and both were the supporters of minority rights. Both had experience of drafting constitution. We all know that Dr. Ambedkar drafted Indian Constitution, but the Thomas Jefferson did not draft American Constitution because he was at that time not in America, but he drafted the French Constitution. He helped drafting the French Constitution. Then coming to the respect of their followers, Dr. Ambedkar has millions of followers who respect Dr. Ambedkar. Similarly, in America, there are millions of Americans who respect Thomas Jefferson. Now, coming to respect for women, this is the only area in which Dr. Ambedkar and Thomas Jefferson differ. Dr. Ambedkar respected women, but Thomas Jefferson, he was influenced by the old views and he did not respect women very much. Coming to slavery and untouchability, Thomas Jefferson opposed untouchability, and we all know that Dr. Ambedkar opposed untouchability. Now, coming to their last years, the last years of Dr. Ambedkar and Thomas Jefferson were not very happy because both were afflicted with some physical element or the other. But both have left important legacies. Dr. Ambedkar's legacies are well known. He had given us Indian Constitution, and in Indian Constitution he has given basic structure. Then he has given reservation to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and rights to women and their empowerment. Now, similarly, Thomas Jefferson's legacies are also very important. He gave democracy and importance to democracy to Americans. Thank you very much. Now, there is a note saying that I should talk something about Dr. Ambedkar's days in London School of Economics. Now, Dr. Ambedkar spent about a year in London School of Economics, but after that his scholarship period was over and he had to come to India. Then he served in Sydenham College, earned some money, and he again went to London School of Economics to complete his education there. That is the DSc, MSc, DSc and Bar at Law. When he was in London School of Economics, he was very busy because he had to study not only economics, but he was simultaneously studying law. And all the time he had money crunch. He was short of money. And he also had to send money to Bombay for his wife and his relatives. Therefore, his life was very miserable money-wise. And during that time, the Naval Batena, his friend, he came to his rescue. Every time Dr. Ambedkar was in need of money, he borrowed money from Naval Batena, and Naval Batena helped with the money wholeheartedly. Now there is also a question about John Dewey. John Dewey taught education to Dr. Ambedkar in Columbia University. Now, Dr. Ambedkar was so much influenced by John Dewey that he remembered John Dewey's lectures verbatim even after number of years. And one day when he was talking to Dr. Savita Ambedkar, his wife, Ambedkar's second wife, he said that he still remembers John Dewey's lectures verbatim and he can reproduce them even now. Dr. Ambedkar had such a respect for John Dewey that he was remembering all his lectures verbatim even after many years elapsed. Then there is a question about making some points on the economy of India. Economy of India, I would answer this in a very typical way in context of this speech. Had Dr. Ambedkar been in India and if he was in charge of the economics of India, the things about India in terms of its economy would have been totally different. Thank you. Thank you everybody for the lively interaction.